Buena Park, California is home to one of the oldest family theme parks in the country, Knott's Berry Farm. Founded in 1920, Knott's Berry Farm began as nothing more than 20 acres of farmland leased by Walter and Cordelia Knott. Walter Knott was an ingenious man with a strong work ethic. His lifelong dream was to become a farmer, and after many years of struggling to homestead in the rugged Mojave Desert, an opportunity to fulfill his dream came about from his cousin Jim Preston. Walter and Cordelia moved to Buena Park and spent most of their life savings on farm equipment and berry plants. The struggle to succeed seemed insurmountable, especially in the first year when California suffered an unusual winter frost that lasted several weeks, nearly wiping the farm out. When the Depression hit, the cost to produce the fruit exceeded the price they could get for it. Walter never lost hope. He began to experiment with a new strain of berry plant, which he obtained from his friend Rudolph Boysen. The new plant was a cross between a loganberry, raspberry, and blackberry. Walter was successful in the development of this new plant, and the result was the famous boysenberry. Walter realized he could get a better price for his produce if he sold it directly to the customers. He decided to build a roadside berry stand along the long stretch of highway known as Beach Boulevard. Before long, the roadside stand became a very popular stop for travelers going to and from the beach. Cordelia worked right alongside her husband, making biscuits, pies, and jams to be sold in the berry stand as well. As the popularity grew, Cordelia came up with another idea: to serve her home-cooked fried chicken to a few weary travelers. Neither Walter nor Cordelia had any idea how a few chicken dinners served on their personal wedding china would impact the rest of their lives. Soon word of mouth spread like wildfire, and people were waiting in line 3 to 4 hours just to get a taste of Mrs. Knott's fried chicken. As the vast amount of people continued to line up, Walter decided he needed to do something to entertain the guests as they waited. He began by building displays paying homage to the Old West and the early pioneers. His crowning achievement was the construction of an authentic ghost town, which still stands to this day. People came from miles around to eat at the chicken dinner restaurant and experience this ghost town firsthand. In 1960, a man by the name of Bud Hurlbut, who was well known for his handcrafted carousels and kiddie trains, suggested to Walter the idea of a mine train ride that could entertain and educate visitors about the early days of mining. Walter agreed and gave Bud the green light to build this historical ride. The Calico Mine Ride was just the beginning of many changes to come. In 1968, Knott's enclosed the entire area and began charging a general admission, which officially transformed the farm into a theme park. Today, Knott's Berry Farm boasts 160 acres of world-class rides, unique family shows, and one-of-a-kind attractions. Knott's Berry Farm is also famous for something else. Something that began in the early 1970s. A one-of-a-kind event as historic as the farm itself. It only happens once a year, and it appears mysteriously during the fall season. Thousands have experienced this event, and most will say it's like nothing you've ever seen. Many believe the phenomenon was caused by a horrible curse. Folklore refers to it as the mysterious veil that rises and falls during the October season. It can cause chills of terror in some and complete euphoria in others. It is known the world over as the first and largest attraction of its kind. It is the one and only Halloween Haunt. Farm of Buena Park, California is the location for Knott's Scary Farm's Halloween Haunt, an event that has taken place here since 1973. But what exactly is the Halloween Haunt? Most people see it as one of the largest haunted attractions in the world, considered to be the granddaddy of all Halloween haunts. It's been quoted as the ultimate Halloween experience, the biggest Halloween party anywhere. And it's one of the only places in the world where you can feel like you're starring in your very own horror movie. And although the attraction itself is well known, the story behind it is not. How did it start? What was it like in the beginning? And how did it evolve into the most successful Halloween attraction in the world? Join us as we reveal the stories and secrets behind this historic event. Welcome to Season of Screams. By the late 1960s, Knott's Berry Farm was considered to be a world-class theme park, a great place to take the family for a day of fun. You could take a wild journey on the Calico Log Ride, or explore the deep, mysterious caverns on the Calico Mine Ride. Strolling through Ghost Town was like stepping out of a time machine and into the early days of the Old West. With authentic buildings and actual gunslingers roaming the streets, the experience of Ghost Town was as real as it got. In October of 1973, something very strange happened at Knott's, and Ghost Town took on a different appearance. An unusual fog began to emanate from the buildings, and freakish monsters emerged. What was happening? It was the very first Halloween haunt. Almost out of nowhere, this incredible event took shape and has become famous the world over. So what was the inspiration for the Halloween haunt, and how did it come to be? The year was 1972, when a unique idea was presented to the entertainment director of Knott's at the time, Bill Hollingshead.
So when I was at Knott's Berry Farm in 1972, it was 1972, I got a call from a guy named Gary Blair, who was the manager of Larry Vincent, who was Seymour.
Larry Vincent was best known for his campy character Seymour, a self-proclaimed master of the macabre. Seymour hosted a show on local Los Angeles television called Fright Nights.
They'd run an old cornball monster movie, and then he'd make asides.
The biggest thing about Seymour, what set him apart from every other horror host that there had been up till then, was that he was absolutely frank about what a load of crap the movies were that he was running. He called his viewers fringies, and he endlessly pointed out every flaw in those movies, insulted you for tuning in and wasting your life watching this crap. And he was hysterical. It was like Groucho Marx in a graveyard. I'll tell you, fringies, this movie is a real load. Next week's little grabber is Invasion of the Animal People. I should warn you, this movie is not as good as it sounds.
People were just really into Seymour, and he became a cult figure. So Gary Blair called me up in 1972, I think around first part of September. He says, Bill, I understand you have a theater with a CinemaScope screen and two 35mm movie projectors. Why don't we put Seymour in there and run a big Halloween event? And I thought, hey, we could do that, and we could bring in the monsters.
Booking Seymour into the Knott's Theater presented some very unique opportunities for them.
I was called into a meeting, and Bill Hollingshead was there, and a George Condos was there, and a Martha Boyd was there, and we started talking about what we could do.
And we said, this could be an incredible special event, hard ticket. And we got into about the third week of September, and we said, there's just not enough time. We only have about 4, 5, 6 weeks to pull this thing together. So I called Gary back and I said, call me in the spring of next year and let's just really make something out of this.
The Knott family, which controlled Knott's Berry Farm at that time, didn't care very much for the idea. At that time, there was only one person in the Knott family who was in favor of the idea completely from beginning to end. and remarkably it was Walter Knott. Walter Knott took a walk through the park, and he had a meeting, as he usually did, conversations with his key people. And this particular day he had Champ Gabler walking with him, and they were discussing the fact that there was a vote that had been taken, apparently within the family, that was negative about this idea of the haunt. Walter said he wanted to know what the idea was. What was it we wanted to do? Champ Gabler was speaking for Bill Hollingshead and the crew, and he told him, we'd like to have a big Halloween party. And Walter wanted to know what the situation was. Well, the family had voted negatively against it. And at about this point, they had reached a landmark within Knott's, which is a bench that has two permanent figures on each end. Walt sat down in between the two figures and took a moment and looked around, looked at Ghost Town, and said, I want a party. I want to see it here. I'm voting for it. That's my vote. That's all I have to say on the matter. For Walt to vote unanimously over the rest of the people was rare. He usually deferred a lot of the decision making to his family. This was different. This was something he wanted. This was something he approved, and it wasn't going to be discussed. I will always respect a man for that.
Now we're going for the premier year, 1973. So I met with George Condos again and Martha, and had conversations with Sandy Parker, who was the theater manager of what was then called the John Wayne Theater. And she said, well, you know, I have makeup artists and I have all the theater people, because